What is up, guys, and I do hope you're well, and today we are covering Am I the A-Hole? If you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe button, and maybe even that notification bell. And with that being said, let's get started. Our first story is from Septopus007. Am I the a-hole for telling guests they can't come to my house unless they bring food or drinks to share? So this is a currently unfolding situation. Background: my entire family is poor and lives paycheck to paycheck. I earned a scholarship to college and then started a career. So I am the only member of our family that is not living in poverty. My husband and I are solidly middle class for the past decade or so. We've been hosting family get-togethers about once a month, inviting my whole family, 3 siblings and spouses plus my parents, and paying for everything: food, drink, etc. Current situation: my husband was laid off about a year ago and has been unemployed or underemployed ever since. He is currently working about 50% of his old salary. Things are financially difficult. We are just covering our bills with a combined income, and if anything extra comes up, we have to take it out of savings. One area that we're trying to save money with is hosting these family get-togethers. We haven't stopped completely. We hosted Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, and some birthdays, but we have stopped hosting lesser holidays. Skip Super Bowl Sunday and Memorial Day. Today is Independence Day. We normally have a get-together, but we told everyone that we'd just be spending a quiet holiday alone with our children. Yesterday, my mum called upset that we weren't hosting anything. I told her we're just going to spend the day swimming. We belong to the swim club. Immediately she got excited and wanted to come, along with my youngest sister who lives at home. I eventually agreed, but said it would only be for a few hours. Later in the day, all of my siblings started calling me and asking if they could come over to use the pool and what we're doing for dinner. Now, I have to pay to get them into swim club, and I have no interest in paying for them all to eat and drink all day long. So after talking it over with my husband, we decided to call them and tell them that we could not host a meal. But if they wanted to each bring a dish to share and anything they wanted to drink, we could host a potluck meal so we could all eat together. Well, they didn't like that. One said they don't get paid until Friday and had no food in the house, so it was like us telling them that they couldn't come. One said it wasn't fair, they want to see the family. Making them bring food takes money they would use to buy groceries, and it is like taking food out of their family's mouth. We didn't give in. I wasn't planning to host. If they want to come, they can contribute, but from their perspective, I have money that they don't. It's selfish to ask them to bring anything. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Edit responded to a comment and thought it was worth sharing here so you could all understand why they think I'm the a-hole. Yes, technically I could pull money from my savings to pay for this. They have never had savings, so having money in the bank feels like wealth to them. But the way I work my way out of poverty is not to spend more than I make each month and build up an emergency fund. I'm using that emergency fund to get through this difficult financial time. I have no idea how long my husband will be underemployed, and I want to make the saving last as long as possible. So I'm just not willing to spend my savings on extravagances, but to them, I have money I could use, and I'm choosing not to, while they didn't have much money at all. So I'm the a-hole asking them to contribute, which is why my original plan was just to each do our own thing for the holiday, rather than getting together and creating the issue. God, entitled family or what? I can understand them wanting to get together as a family, but you wasn't asking for much for them to bring a dish or something. It's not that difficult. You can make cheap dishes from very little for a family get together. And if a whole family does that, you got a good meal, But for them to expect that from you, it's just ridiculous. And it just shows how entitled and how used to this they become. Shame on them. Anyway, thank you for sharing that story. Really appreciated. Next we have a story from Atlas Balls. Am I the a-hole for banning my brother-in-law from my house after he had sex in my bed? My 36 male wife, 30, has a younger brother who recently moved to the city where we live to go to university. He rents a place with some friends, lives fairly close to us, and we see each other often. I've known him since he was 13, he's 19 now, and we get along very well. My wife and I went on holiday last month, and we were gone for about a month. Since we knew we had finals and would probably appreciate some peace and quiet, we asked him to look after our place while we were gone. My wife said he can use whatever he wants, and she left him some extra money for food and whatnot. While we were gone, they talked on the phone, and he asked if his boyfriend could come over for a couple of times a week, and my wife said, of course. When they hung up, I asked her if he was coming over for dinner, or study date, or to sleep over. She said she didn't ask, but what does it matter? Any one of those things is fine. I said I wasn't fine with all of it. In particular the sleeping over option, because my brother-in-law was sleeping in our bed and I didn't want him to have sex in it. She laughed at me and said she's sure her brother doesn't mind sleeping in the bed we had sex in, so what's the problem? We had a huge fight. I wanted to call him to check, but she told me that he's doing us a favour and to leave him alone. When we got back and I was left alone with my brother-in-law, I asked him how his study dates with his boyfriend were going, and he said fine. So I asked if that was all they did. He asked me what I mean, and I said, well, you know. So he said, well, he is my boyfriend, so yeah, you know. I was getting pretty angry at this point, and I asked, in my bed? I guess he could see I was getting mad, so he said he was uncomfortable talking about it. At this point, I lost it. He was the one that's uncomfortable. It's my fucking bed, covered in his and his boyfriend's arse sweat and semen. I started shouting at him, and my wife came and started shouting at me, and I just told him that he disrespected us and to get the fuck out, and that I don't want to see him in my house again. He said he washed and replaced the bed linen before we got back, but that only made me angrier. What about the fucking mattress and the pillows? He could have gone back to his place to fuck. He told me I was an insane cunt and left. I slept on the couch of my own volition since then, and my wife is furious with me. Am I really the arsehole? Ooh, that's a tough one. I think you getting totally angry about it was a bit over the top. I mean, he is looking after your place. Your wife did let him over. You should have taken that with your wife. You know, he wasn't in the wrong in this situation. You know, he was respectful enough to replace all the sheets and linen, so he wasn't going out of his way to disrespect you in any way, you know. And in the end, it's just a body on your bed, man. He's replaced all that stuff, so yeah, I think you've got some apologising to do, in my opinion. Now we have a story from Wedding of My. Am I the a-hole for telling my family that if they gift us money for our wedding, there will be no strings attached, or we will politely decline it? I effing hate wedding culture. It's bullshit. My fiance and I thought we'd escape the bullshit and money by having a small thing. Well, family started to throw money at us to make it bigger and more spectacular. We were surprised, but it was a good surprise. Then the demands started coming out. They wanted this, they wanted that, and they wanted this person to come. These colours, dresses can't do this. This person has to be the flower girl. This person has to be the groomsman, etc, etc. Suddenly, it didn't feel like our wedding, but an excuse for our families to have a family reunion. We put our foot down and said, thank you for all your kindness and generosity when it comes to our wedding. Unfortunately, it looks like we may not be on the same page as the rest of you. When we were offered money for this wedding, we did not realise it came with strings attached. With so many requests and so many demands from people we didn't expect would think they had a say in our wedding, we've decided to give everyone their money back. Our understanding of what a gift is must be very different. If you'd like to give us money without strings attached, or requests or demands, we gratefully accept it. But if you believe a gift should come with stipulations, we must regretfully and politely decline. This has caused an epic shitstorm, such to the point I have people saying they will never come to our wedding. Honestly, not the worst thing in the world. That we are spoiled, we're arseholes, etc, etc, etc. My parents are rather upset about it, but hers, who never made any demands and gave us a small cash gift, said we did the right thing. We're halfway to cancelling the whole party and just absconding into the wilderness to do our wedding the way we want. Are we the a-holes? I don't think you're the a-holes in this situation at all. This is your day, this is all about you two. You know, you don't have to invite anyone at all to your wedding. Maybe a couple of witnesses maybe. But this is your thing, so you should be doing it your way, in whatever way. People giving you money shouldn't be making demands about anything like that at all. And your family should be respecting your wishes. Demanding people that they have to be the flower girl, the person has to be the groomsman, is beyond ridiculous. So you totally done the right thing there. And I think if it's making you that upset, you should totally just go off and do your own thing. Now we have a story from Kid Ivy. Am I the a-hole for telling a group of women to stop staring at me? I'm 7 months pregnant. I'm carrying really large in front. None of my maternity clothes fit, and it's hot outside. I'm uncomfortable, self-conscious, and miserable. Everywhere I go, I'm approached by women who either gawk at me, touch my belly, ask if I'm days away from giving birth, and when the answer is no, ask if I'm having twins. I can't go a single day without hearing some kind of comment about it, and it's starting to wear me down. There's a group of 3 older women who sit outside my apartment building in the smoking hut. I see them every day. I see them when I leave school, I see them when I return from school, I see them when I go to work, and I see them when I go shopping. Each time they stare. They sit there, smoking and staring. When I wave at them, they wave back, but continue to watch me walk into the building. It makes me so uncomfortable. I can understand the comments I get from strangers because strangers don't usually see pregnant women every day, but these women see me every single day. They stare at me like I'm some sort of spectacle, and I hate it. A couple of days ago, I was following behind as my boyfriend hauled our new car seat to the car, and I was so hot and upset that none of my expensive maternity clothes were fitting me, and they were staring. So I walked up to them and said something along the lines of, "Can you please stop staring at me every time I leave and come home?" One of them replied with, "Oh, it's just you're so big and cute. You seem to get bigger every day." So I replied, "Yep, and I'm going to continue to get bigger, and it's not going to stop until I have the baby, and I deserve to be able to come home without feeling uncomfortable by a group of women who stare at me every single day. Knock it off. I don't like it. You're making me feel uncomfortable." I didn't wait around for a response. My boyfriend told me it was the best thing to do, but my dad said it was rude and I could have handled it better. The apartment manager said the ladies have told them that I made them uncomfortable and should consider apologising. I said no. Am I the a-hole? Edit, the smoking hut is so close to the sidewalk on the way to the building that saying hello, how are you doing today, while I'm walking by would have been better than just staring. They wouldn't even have to raise their voices, that's how close I get to them. I even said hello loads of times and all I've gotten back are small smiles or waves. A few times I've looked back once, I've reached for the front door and they're still looking at me. It makes no sense. Also, when I'm touched and tugged on by strangers and asked inappropriate questions, I grab their hands and say, "Stop, please don't. That's really none of your business," with a smile. I can't do much else because this happens while I'm working or at school. I can see where you're coming from on this one. I think if I lived in an area and someone like my neighbours was staring at me when I was just doing normal things like going in and out of my house and they kept staring at me, you can't live with that consistent people staring at you and making you feel uncomfortable. You got the total right to say something, but then they got the total right to be staring at the same time, you know. But it comes down to just being human, you know, seeing that someone's feeling uncomfortable and stopping doing it. You had to remind them of that, and I think that's totally down. I think you're totally right doing that thing. And your apartment manager should be dealing with them. If they're sat out there every single day staring at people, making them uncomfortable, he should be dealing with them, not you. Next we have a story from Maybe I'm Ignorant. Am I the a-hole for playing music over my Bluetooth speaker on a public hiking trail? Where to begin with this? I guess I need to say up front, I'm not an outdoors type person, but I was sort of excited to go on a hike yesterday. We're in San Diego for the 4th of July, and my cousin said it would be really fun if me and my friends went on a hike, while she, cousin, had to work. We went to a place called Cowles Mountain, which I guess is about 45 minutes away from the hotel downtown. When we got there it was pretty crowded, and we saw a group of guys coming down, who were just blasting rap music. I was like, wow, that'd be an awesome way to not get bored on a hike. So I went back to my car and got my Bluetooth speaker from my pack and hit my favourite Spotify list. Most people didn't seem to mind, but I did notice that we started to get occasional dirty looks. But finally, one person stopped me and told me it was incredibly rude to play music out loud and that I should be using headphones. I told her that I was playing music for our group, and she basically said that it's still very rude and against the rules, but she kept walking. We decided we weren't going to make it to the top, so we stopped at kind of a flat spot and sat down for a while. And this is where things got actually kind of scary. This guy and his girlfriend came up to us and said again that I should be using headphones. I told her that we were in a group. She said that it didn't matter. Most people were trying to enjoy quiet nature. I told her that's public land. She said, "If you weren't such an ignorant fat bitch, you would have noticed the sign at the bottom that said no speakers." I basically shut down because I'm not good at confrontation, but my friend asked her if she wanted to repeat herself. So the girlfriend called her a fat bitch as well, and her boyfriend had to drag her away, she was so upset. I didn't want any more hassle, so I turned off the speaker and they walked away, but the girl was just glaring at us, and I was actually scared they would slash my tyres or something at the bottom. I've been reliving the confrontation over and over again and didn't sleep that night. I admit to being fully ignorant because I do not do a lot of outdoor stuff, but was it really a big deal? I mean, at least one other group we saw was doing it, so it can't be that out of touch. All I was trying to do was make it a little more enjoyable and really meant no offence. I posted this on another sub and it was referenced here, so I'm a little scared just because of the title. But please be honest with me. Was I doing something wrong? Again, this is a really tough one. I can totally understand, like, there's other people on the hiking trail and they're out there for a bit of peace and quiet and nature and all that kind of stuff. And I'd understand if you was like walking behind someone constantly and your music was blaring. I think I'd personally be a little bit pissed off. I'd be like, can you quieten that down a little bit, because I'm just trying to chill here and have a nice walk. And everyone has different music tastes and all this kind of thing, you know. But I mean, if you're just literally sat somewhere and you're just playing a bit of music, I don't think I'd be that bothered, you know, because I'll be walking past you in about 2 minutes, so it doesn't really bother me. But then again, it just sort of really depends on the situation. If you're constantly following someone, blaring your music, I'll be like, yeah, can you quieten that down? But if you're sat in the one spot and you weren't harming anyone, I mean, what's the deal, you know? But I don't see too much wrong with that. I mean, as you say, you were just trying to enjoy the trail in your own way. But thank you very much for sharing that story. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Am I the A-Hole? If you are new here, as I said before, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe and that notification bell, and tune in next time. Much love, guys. Take care now.